Can you guys hear that? It's sleeting. Sleeting? Well, I was planning on taking Goldie home today, but if it's gonna keep doing this all day, I don't want to get over to the garage and then have the sky just shit a foot of snow. So Suburban it is. All reliable. All right, so that's new. Oh. All right, so let me tell you guys real quick what we found out about the motor. So here's kind of what we think happened. The guy who built it, because we didn't put it together, the guy who built it seemed to have this obsession with silicone. Obviously this was us, we put the top end back together, but underneath everything was siliconed, and even some of like the rod bolts had this like weird, I don't know, kind of coating on it. And what we think happened was when everything was tightened, that oozed out into the actual engine and it got caught up in the oil pickup. So we think that clogged a bunch of stuff, and then in combination with that, the old carburetor that was on it was totally trash. So we think that leaked fuel and washed out all the bearings. So that's what we think happened. All the rods and pistons are probably salvageable, but as far as the block itself, it's not going to show up on camera real well, but you could go surfing down a couple of these cylinders. So the block's no bueno, and it's already 60 over. You don't really want to go too much further than that. The crank's still good. It is a forged crank, so we're going to hold on to that. Aside from that, probably just going to find another motor, which we think we have sourced. But yeah, that's what's going on with that. This motor's not going to get rebuilt. It'll unfortunately probably end up on a scrap pile. Pistons, probably shelf them and the rods. A couple of you guys noticed the same thing that we noticed at first, and that's the discoloration on the rod ends there where it goes onto the wrist pin. At first we thought that they just got really hot, but after talking to a local engine guru, he said that a lot of what the backyard guys do will just heat these up with a torch and then slip the wrist pins in because these are press fit. So that's probably what happened there, since it's so uniform on all 8 of them. And then one more thing that you guys commented on was the lifters when we were testing the oil system, how we just threw in some other lifters. We know that the lifters mate to each lobe specifically, and we weren't worried about that because this cam's getting trashed anyway, especially now that the distributor drive gear is toast. So now you guys are up to speed. Got a plan for today? Or just make it up as we go?
Go pick that motor up.
Yeah, I thought Kenny would have picked this up yesterday.
Well, he's going to, but then, what's his name didn't show up.
Keith?
Yeah. I guess he's gonna go to Indiana and find a van.
Oh.
And pull this out and take it back over to his house.
What an ungrateful turd. Yeah, so that motor that we were just mentioning, yesterday we had a Circle Track friend of ours, the engine guru. We had him come over, look at everything, see what he thinks, just to get a second opinion, because that never hurts. And we were telling him, like, we're kind of up in the air with what route we want to go with things. And we were mentioning that we were thinking about just getting another motor. And he was like, well, if you guys are looking for another motor, I've got the motor for you, and I'll sell it to you for cheap. Like I said, he does Circle Track stuff, so his is all high RPM and built really well, because more than just like drag racing where it's a few seconds at a time, really, his is meant to last. A few things aren't going to be ideal for it, but for the most part, for the price, it's going to be really good. And it's the only thing we need is we'll have to put our heads on it. It has an intake that'll be really nice. I'll show you guys more in a second. Alright, we have the engine. and it is 60 over. It's supposed to have a good cam. We'll take a look at that once we get it on the engine stand. And it also came with this intake and a 750 Holley. I have no idea what brand this intake is, but I don't think that's really going to matter. These single plane air gap intakes are all fairly similar. And these are crossover tubes that someone added for coolant. And then here we have the old motor torn down to pretty much just the block. I think all that's left in it is just some main bearings and freeze plugs. And then here's the crank that was in it. Now there's a couple ways to tell the difference between a cast crank and a forged crank. If you look on this one right here, if it'll show up, you can see some numbers that are cast into it. And there's a parting line that I'm not seeing right now that you can see on this one, how it has a really wide parting line, like someone ground some metal off. On cast cranks, it's a really thin, like slit basically, where they separate the two molds. And then also on forged cranks, all the identification numbers and stuff will be stamped into it, not cast into it. See, there's a lot of things I don't know, but I'm fucking waiting for you.
I'm right where you talking to.
There are a lot of things I don't know, but there are some things I do know. Alright, now that we got it on the stand, see what cam's in it. See if it's one we can live with for now. I think these pistons are going to be like an 8cc dish. 12214.4, that's the part number that was on the cam, and the CC comp cams, I'm assuming. So I'm going to try to find out everything I can on it, see if it's one we want to use or if we should find another one. Regardless, we're gonna have to get new lifters because the block didn't come with any. So I'm trying to find out what's going on with it, what the specs are, what kind of lift it is. We could measure the lift to see, but if we have the part number, it's easier to just look up the part number. Alright, so I'm on Comp's website right now where you can just punch in the part number and they have a shitload of information. They're one of the better cam places I've ever used. Looking up the part number, again, 12214.4. And let's see, it says the RPM range 3,500 to 7,000, so that's pretty good. It specifically says cam family, drag race, hydraulic flat tappet. Description, hydraulic 3,500 to 4,000 stall with 4-speed with 11:1 compression. We're not going to be making that kind of compression. We also have a turbo 400, but the actual cam specs are 110 lobe separation angle, 305 duration, which would be 253 at 50. The lobe lift is 35, which would be the valve lift of 525 each. So it looks like it'll be a pretty good cam. And let's see, yeah, this will actually be a pretty good cam, I think. It is a healthy amount of duration, that's for sure. The lift would be pretty good. These heads should handle it because the other cam, this one was, let's see, I think this went to 560 lift on the exhaust side. So these heads should be good with the lift. Might still find different springs, switch to like some beehives or something. And then I don't know if I ever pointed this out, but these have 1.6 roller rockers. I think these are PRE, if I remember right. I couldn't take a closer look and tell you for sure. They are PRW it was. I don't know where I got PRE from. So what we might do is send these heads off and get them decked a little bit, get the chamber size dropped down, try and knock it down closer to like 10.5 to 1 compression, and just make a nice little NA small block. Or if we do decide to go boosted, still probably send the heads off, but just get them like ported and stuff a whole lot better than what I did, and keep it, because it should be, I want to say it should be real close to 9 to 1 compression, which would be really good for a turbo. But the main thing that you guys have to remember is that me especially, but both of us, we're super indecisive. So we'll come up with thousands of different ideas on what we would like to do, and it'll take us forever to actually decide on what way we go with it. So the fact that we got this motor at all is kind of surprising us both. And yeah, I think to have the heads done would be like 300, something like that. 250, 300. There's a place up in Ionia that was recommended to us. Yeah, and then really aside from that, there isn't too much left to do today. We might just fuck around with this a little bit more and just check over the bearings. We might throw new bearings in it just to be safe. So yeah, until we start ordering some parts and those show up, there really isn't too much left to do today. So unless something exciting happens, that's probably going to do it for today's video. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Thank you for liking, commenting, and subscribing. We'll see you next time.